is from Joe's Journey by Marilyn Reilly. And I'm going to read from the, I don't know if I can get this to show right. There we go. She has a new color out there, and I'm going to use this one so you can see what it looks like. And we're going to read the first chapter where we get introduced to Joe and find out what's going to happen to him. And if I get permission, I'll read another chapter later. So we're going to start with this one. By the way, she does have some really nice drawings of Joe and his dog. I'm trying to get this so you can see it. All right. So chapter 1, Joe's younger days. Joe is a quiet man with not much to grumble about. He has a lovely wife who cares about him very much. They had a little shop that sold mostly everything you could think of, and they had a very good customer record. They were busy most of the time, except Sundays. That was their day off. It was time they could enjoy together. They had a little car to run around in and go different places together. Not many people in those days had a car. So when the weather was good, they packed up a picnic. When the weather was not so good, they had the Sunday lunch at his friend's cafe. The couple, Joe and Sophia, were childhood friends. They grew up together at the age of 5. They started school together, became friends, went everywhere together. Their parents lived in the same road, and they became friends too. So the two children were together most of the time. Joe lived in a shop with his parents. The shop was excessively big and had plenty of room inside, and at the back of the house there was a lot of land too. The shop used to belong to his grandfather, Alfred. He used to keep chickens and a few pigs and geese as well. They used to grow their own veg as well, as it was during the war days, so they had to try and feed themselves and everyone in the village, as there was not much food during the war. The shop has been in the family for years, so it was quite established, and it helped the village folks with food. They all worked together to grow what they could. Joe was a young boy then and did not understand the war except that it was very noisy and scary. When he went down to the bunker, he used to take his toys down there and make it his den. Joyce, Alfred's wife, used to have to help with the animals and the gardening when Alfred was called to war. So she hired an odd job man. He was glad of the extra money as he did not get much money, and he could not fight in the war due to ill health, but he could do the gardening and look after the animals. He lived local just down the road with his wife. He had 2 grown-up boys that signed up for the war, so it kept him busy and not worrying about the boys. Joyce was thankful for the help she got and paid him what she could afford. She also gave him free eggs and veg too. Life was hard for everyone during the war, so they all had to pull together, and the shop kept all the people in the village going. The shop went back years in the family and was a little gold mine. Joe loved living in the shop. He had all his friends over to play in the backyard. They used to play in his bunker, cowboys and Indians. War was coming to an end, and Alfred was due to come home soon. Joe was starting a new school, and everything seemed to be getting brighter. So Joyce decided to throw a big party when Alfred came home. He was due to be home at the end of the week, so everyone got together and baked cakes and made party decorations. So by the end of the week, they had loads of everything, and it was the day when Alfred was due home. Everyone was up early to get everything ready. The weather was sunny. They all got the decorations up. The men got all the drinks ready. The women done a lot of sandwiches, so everyone was doing something. It looked wonderful. Then there was a knock on the door. Everyone hid away and kept quiet. Joyce ran to the door and opened the door. Alfred dropped his bag and said, "Come here, my lovely, and give me a big schmecker." She gave him the biggest kiss she could. Then everyone came out and started singing "For He's a Jolly Good Fella," and so say all of us. They were so happy, and the party seemed to go on forever. A few weeks passed, and Joe was starting his new school. He had all new uniforms, a new satchel, new notebooks and pens and pencil sets. So he was looking forward to going to his new school, of course. Joe knew most of the children in the school, but there was a newcomer in the area in the school who seemed to take a liking to Joe. Her name was Molly. She asked Joe if he would like one of her sweets. So Joe, being polite, said yes, please, and asked her if she was new to the area. Molly said yes, she was. Then he happened to see Sophie and ran over to say hi. Uh, Sophie said, "Who is that you're talking to?" Joe looked around and said, "That is Molly, a new girl in the area. She has just started school as well." So Sophie said, "Let's go and talk to her." Joe thought he got away from Molly, but now Sophie wanted to make friends with her. "Hi," says Sophie to Molly, and then they started to talk about where Molly came from. The girls seemed to get along very well and left Joe just standing there. Molly was tall and thin with glasses. Sophie was a little thing with long dark hair. She used to wear her hair in pigtails most of the time as it was so long. They all seemed to get along very well. Molly still followed Joe around, and he used to wish it were Sophie. One day, Joe sat behind Sophie in class. He pulled her pigtails to get her attention. Sophie turned around and told him to stop it. Then the teacher said, "Joe, stop that at once and go sit next to Molly." She was very sensible. Molly was chuffed. Sophie turned around and laughed. He was not amused at all. As time went on, they were now in their teens and started going to dances and dating, but Joe always had the eye for Sophie. Molly still followed Joe around, and one day she followed him around when he wanted to go and ask Sophie to go to the pictures with him. So he went to the shop first. Then when he came out of the shop, he met his mother. "Hello," his mother said to Joe, "and where are you going?" "Hello, Molly," said Joe's mother to Molly. I started talking to her. Then Joe's mother said, "Where did Joe go?" Joe quickly runs around the corner to get away from Molly. Joe manages to lose Molly so he could ask Sophie out to the dance at the weekend. When Joe got home, his mother asked him where he had gotten to, and he explained that Molly was always following him around. But his mother laughed and said, "Don't be so cruel, Joe." Molly thought Sophie and Molly told Sophie that her parents were going to move soon, that her father was to be stationed in Cyprus. So Sophie told Joe that when they went on their date, and Joe said, "That's good. Finally, I get rid of her." "Joe," said Sophie, "that's a terrible thing to say." "Well, she keeps following me around all the time." Sophie laughed and said, "That's because she likes you." "But I wish it was you following me instead." They went out a few times more, and Molly said, "Joe, I'm sorry I followed you, but you were the only one who talked to me. Others used to walk away." She then told him she was moving in 3 days' time. Then Joe said, "You must say goodbye to Sophie before you go. Can you say goodbye for me, Joe?" Sophie had lots of friends, and that's why I was on my own most of the time. I felt so lonely. Then Joe felt sorry for her and gave her a little peck on the cheek. Then she blushed and said, "I hope you and Sophie are incredibly happy together." Sophie Joe dated for a few years. Then one day, Joe popped the question to her. She said yes. Sophie was only 18, so they had to wait till she was 21 to get married. But their parents both agreed, so they got engaged that year. And they had an excessively big party. It was wonderful. And they got lots of presents too. They saved extremely hard to raise the money to buy a little house before they got married. Although Joe's father said they could live with them in the shop, as the shop would one day be Joe's, but they wanted to be on their own modest home. Sophie reached the age of 21, and that year they were to be married. They started planning their wedding, and that year there was a lot to do. Look for a house and sort all the wedding out. Joe's mother helped them, and Sophie's mom too. So everyone all came together to help, and it was extremely exciting for them. They found a little house they both liked very much. Joe lived in it so he could do it up. Because it was quite old, Sophie was busy sorting out who was coming to the wedding and getting the ordering done for the most of the things. She left her dress to last, and bridesmaids had to be sorted out too. She was having 2 little girls and 2 page boys, and maid of honor heavy sorted out, and there was plenty to do. But it all got done, and time was getting nearer and nearer. It was so busy that year. They did not know if they would get everything ready for Sophie's birthday, the day they would get married. Well, the big day was here, and everyone was rushing around like whippets. It was like a madhouse in Sophie's house, and the door open all the time. It was a waste of time closing it. Someone was knocking on the door all the time. Time was getting nearer, and Joe was still getting over his stag night out. But his friends managed to sort that out down the pub. After a pint or two, Joe looked at his watch and said, "Come on, boys, we have to get ready for his best mate, Billy, who he knew since they were toddlers was the best man." So Joe said, "You come home with me to pick up the ring, and don't lose it or Sophie will kill you." Ha ha. As if I would do that. So Joe said, "I will see you at the altar." I went back home to have a bath and get ready. He was a handsome young man. He just had a haircut the other day. He bought a new modern suit, a blue suit. He looked very smart indeed, so he was all ready to go. Then Sophie was nearly ready for her wedding dress. It was beautiful. It was very long with a long trail, and it was handmade with expensive lace all around the bottom and plain satin and lace around the trail. She had a real flower headdress that her mother made. She was very artistic like that. She also made a blue flower stocking holder in dried flowers for her hair. That was for luck. All the bridesmaids and page boys were ready to go. The bridesmaids had pink dresses. The page boys had white suits with white carnations in their buttonholes. Sophie and the bridesmaids had a posy each, with pink and white carnations and trailing little white pink flowers. The cars were waiting outside. There were three for the family and close friends. The others made their own way. It was only up the road anyway. They had a fantastic wedding, and the party went on to the early hours of the morning. So that's chapter 1, kind of get an idea of Joe. Chapter 2 is Joe and Sophie getting married, and chapter 3 is Joe life changes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk to her, and we're going to see if I can read chapters 2 and 3, so that way we can get up to the point where Joe's life changes. And so that's it for this one. This one is kind of a short one. I do apologize. Next time I will be reading another Harry Prince mystery. It's a new one I don't even have out yet, but I already think it's going to be a good one. So we'll read that probably Saturday or Sunday. And I apologize for not getting this out quicker, but I'm back in school, so it takes me a little while. If you have anything a book that you'd like me to read, let me know. I'm more than open to helping new authors get their books out and get people familiar with them. So if you have anything that you'd like me to read, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do it. In the meantime, I'll continue on with my friends' books and my own books. So I hope to see you next time at my next reading. And it's Dave Booker signing off. So have a good day, and thank you for coming to visit.